All right, y'all. We are working on the studio, and by that I mean the living room where I usually shoot. So I'm in my office, which is a absolute disaster. So don't judge me, or do. I don't care. It's the internet. I know everybody's going to judge everybody, but today we're going to talk about Kotis the Fangkeeper, my favorite deck du jour. So welcome back to Redneck Deck Tech. I'm Redneck John. Check it out and stick around till the end for cat videos because the internet runs on cats. So I will see y'all here in a minute with Kotis, the keeper of the fangs. All right, y'all, let's get into it. Now, I've said that Kotis, the Fang Keeper, is villainous wealth on a stick. So that means that the signature card of the deck has to be villainous wealth. It's Sultai plus X. Target opponent exiles the top X cards of his or her library, and then you can cast any number of non-land cards with converted mana cost X or less from among them without paying their mana costs. In other words, just like Kotis. So it's a redundant effect for your commander, and it's fun as heck. I mean, for real, I see all these videos talking about how Kotis is going to make you lose friends. Well, if that's the case, y'all need better friends. Let's be real. If your friends are mad at you for beating them with their deck, then on them. So find better friends who ain't so salty. Let's get into it. First, we got to eat our veggies. We've got to ramp. Obviously, we're going to have us a soul ring. And we're going to have us an arcane signet. And we're going to have us a talisman. Am I going to have us two talismans? No, I'm just going to have the one. Why am I just going to have the one? Because in addition to nature's lore, because I got the cool one with the bird picture, in addition to the rocks and the land ramp, I'm running a kind of Enchantress vibe with this as well. So I've got 4 different pieces of enchantment ramp to go with it. Now, this is lighter than I usually want to go on ramp in a deck, but with so much of it being hard to remove in the form of enchantments and so low to the ground, it plays pretty well. But you can't just ramp. You got to get some cards in your hand to do that, to go with that. And I really like at least one kind of ponder or preordain effect in most decks, especially if I'm running light on ramp, because this smooths out my early draws and makes sure I can get Kotis down on turn 3 or 4. Now then, we got us a Fairy Mastermind, and we got us a Ledger Shredder, because we're in Sultai, so we might as well play these really good blue draw spells. And we got our Gothian Enchantress because we got a little bit of an Enchantress theme going. And that's another reason I can run fewer draw spells than I usually do, because so many of them are like Argothian Enchantress. They're hard to get rid of, and they're so repeatable. So we also have Eidolon Blossoms, and of course we got a Guardian Project. And we've got Black Market Connections, which is kinda ramp, kinda draw, and kind of a shapeshifter, but I don't really ever use that in this deck. I'm not dying for dudes. So these trigger Eidolon, trigger Enchantress, and Black Market Connections gets me in a couple of different ways. And then Stock Up is just a smoking draw spell. I mean, it's a little slower than your ponders and your preordains, but the selection is so good. Just get it out the way. I run this in a ton of blue decks now. And because I'm always trying to get in with at least one critter, Orin Frostfang adds Death Touch to give me a little more evasion, and it gives me card draw to go with it. But you got to be able to blow stuff up. One, because blowing stuff up is cool. And 2, because blockers. I mean, look, Kotis is awesome. Kotis is indestructible. But indestructible don't do nothing if you're bouncing off of a 3/3 every turn. So you got to blow stuff up or bounce it. Now, I like me a good Trickster's Elk because, well, I like Kenrith's Transformation, but this is a double Kenrith's Transformation because you enchant something for the cost of Kenrith's Transformation, and then it triggers your Enchantress somethings, and then when it falls off and they blow up the critter, you get the elk yourself. So I like this. I have replaced Kenra's transformation with Trickster's Elk in most of the decks where I was running it. No, you don't get the ancillary card draw that you get off Kenra's transformation, but you elk their thing, and then you get an elk when they de-elk their thing. That's pretty cool. Astarion's Thirst is great in this deck. Yes, it's a 4-mana kill spell, which is, yes, expensive, but it buffs your commander, which is exactly what you want to be doing because, y'all, Kotis is amazing, but Kotis has got to hit for more than 2 to be worth it, because if you're smacking somebody for 2, you only look at the top 2 cards of their library, and then you can only play things that are 2 or less. So how many dang soul rings do you need? So you Astarion's Thirst, I keep wanting to call it Astarion's Curse for some reason, but that's totally not what it's doing. And is he chewing on Gale there? I think he is. That's a whole fanfic vibe that we're not going to explore too deep here, but y'all who played a whole lot of Baldur's Gate 3, you know what I'm talking about. But this buffs Kotis, so you get in there for 4, 5, 6, and then you cast in some spells, y'all. Now, I try to run 1 to 2 pieces of targeted land removal in every one of my decks because Nykthos is a card that exists, y'all. I'm not so much worried about a Tabernacle or a Gaia's Cradle because, let's be real, most people can't afford a Tabernacle or a Gaia's Cradle, and while I don't care about proxying those things in games with me, most folks that I'm playing with aren't doing it. But, Cabal Coffers and Urborg is a thing. Dark Depths Thespian Stage is a thing that happens. So all of these are lands that are important. I'm not using it usually to take a player off a color unless they're about to run away with the game, unless I nuke their 1 red source or whatever. Although, let's face it, we're playing casual Commander. Ain't nobody running away with the game off of 1 red source. But, y'all, what I am trying to do is keep people from getting such an advantage off 1 land. Because this deck is not fast. This deck ain't winning on turn 5 or 6. If you do, leave me a note in the comments and tell me how you done it. So I try to run a couple of pieces of targeted land removal. And then I run a couple of land pieces that are also removal. Boseiju and Otawara are just 2 of the best dang lands they've printed in forever. I mean, this is just good stuff, y'all. So I run these in as many decks as I have copies. And then I love Imprisoned in the Moon or Oubliette or Flood the Engines. I love all of these kind of Darksteel Mutation, lock your crap down cards because they turn a pain in the butt commander into, well, in this case, a land. Song of the Dryads is even better, but I think my Song of the Dryads is in another deck. So, and again, in this deck, it fuels my Enchantress, so it draws me a card. And then Assassin's Trophy, Ass Trophy. Just sometimes you just got to get rid of when you positively absolutely have to get rid of some pain in the butt thing, Assassin's Trophy it, or Beast Within it. Both of these do kind of the same thing. They nuke something that your opponent's got, and they give them something in return. They're staples. You know what they do. Deadly Rollick. I mean, 1, it's Deadpool riding a unicorn. 2, it's Deadly Rollick. You know what it does. Now, this is one I just added in not too long ago, Amphibian Downpour. I love this card. I think it's hilarious. It's a multiple Frogify, and especially if you can get them with it. You throw this out there after somebody's played 2 or 3 spells in a turn, you flash it in on their end step, you storm it off, and you nuke. Look, ribbit, 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 ribbit. You done Frogified their whole board. That's just fun. But sometimes you need to disrupt more than one thing, and Kotis is fantastic for that because they're indestructible. I think Kotis is a dude, but I'm not sure. So we're gonna go with they them for Kotis, or we'll just bounce back and forth. I have recently become a convert to the fog. I usually run about 1 per deck, just because it ain't gonna take your friends too long unless your friends are morons. Then it might take them a couple of games. But if your friends ain't dummies, it ain't gonna take them long to realize that Kotis is hard to remove, but you might not be so hard to remove. So it might be good for you to make their creatures get lost in the dark. And then since your thing is indestructible, let's destructimify all of their things. So Crux of Fate, Damnation, and Blood Money. Blood Money is expensive as all get out, but my goodness, you get all them treasures. And if you're blowing up just a ton of stuff, it's probably a token deck or something that you've got the time until you get to 7 mana, plus you're in green, and you're playing Carpet of Flowers. It ain't out of the question for you to just have a pile of mana. But as we discussed, if your opponents ain't dummies, they gon' target Kotis. So you need to protect Kotis. Or maybe just get him back. You can Balaged Recovery Kotis. You can command Beacon Kotis out if it's the third or fourth time they have nuked him. These are pretty important. Sink into Stupor, my favorite new counter spell, because it does not take up a spell slot. It's a land on the backside. Turn Aside. I've gotten real fond of this kind of effect in decks that really count on the commander because they're usually super cheap. And you only care about protecting your commander. So if you cannot heroic intervention, and you cannot heroic intervention more than, a couple times a game, maybe you can turn it aside instead. And then Lightning Greaves, you boots with the fur. I swear I'm going to get that altar done. I'm going to get an altar done where Lightning Greaves are just a pair of Ugg boots, and every time I play it, it's going to be boats with the fur. Yeah, I know. Redneck hip hop deck tech. And then, because I don't like getting punched, propaganda, and because I don't like getting punched by the same thing twice, No Mercy. Man, I have seen No Mercy just completely warp games because nobody wants to hit a dude because then they're losing their dudes hitting this dude, and then this dude takes his dudes and he runs all over you, and all of a sudden he's the last dude standing. But like we talked about, Kotis starts off life as a 2/1, and Indestructible is real good, but you got to be able to punch something. And what better way to punch something than by slapping on a Power Fist? This is a smoking equipment. It gives it trample, so it adds evasion. And then whenever it gets through, it gets bigger. Power Fist is great in this deck. So is Bear Umbra because it buffs it and it makes your second main phase even more main because you can get mainer and meaner. Snake Umbra. I like all the Umbras because they give you that whole, in most decks I like them because they give you totem armor, but totem armor don't really matter with Kotis because Kotis is indestructible. But anyhow, it has my favorite 3 words in Magic. Draw a card. Strong Back is a house in this deck because all of your other enchantments get cheaper and it gets buffed for everything on it. It's like an ethereal armor in green. And then Ancestral Mask is just a great finisher for any Enchantress deck. Well Rested, again, has my favorite 3 words in Magic, draw a card. It puts counters on your dude, so even if Well Rested gets removed, the counters are going to stay. Or even if somebody plays Tranquility, your counters will stay. Rancor, an oldie but a goodie, old standby. Recursive buff effect is fantastic, and 1 green. I mean, don't get a whole lot better than that. Anna Sanctuary. I would say Anna because I ain't but 1 N to it, but I am not a lore expert, y'all. If you control a blue or black permanent, target creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Oh, look, it's blue or black. Wait, if you control a blue permanent and a black permanent, that creature gets +5/+5. This is a blue permanent and a black permanent. This makes Kotis a 7/6. That's pretty dope. Nerd Rage, because I R1. This has those 3 words almost, except it says draw 2 cards. I've never had it trigger to get dude buffed +10/+10, but it feeds into Ancestral Mask. It feeds into Strong Back. It goes on there for a blue if you got Strong Back on there already. Now this one is dope because it gives Kotis +2/+2 vigilance and flying for 2 manas. That means that Kotis is now a 4/3 flying thing that can block every turn too. This is one of my favorite enchantments in the deck, but still got to get there. The whole deck ain't worth a poop if you ain't getting in. So Shizo Death's Storehouse gives it fear, which means it can't be blocked except by artifact or black creatures. And then minus Morgul puts a shadow counter on it, which means it can only be blocked by things with shadow. And other than Douthie Voidwalker and that one sliver, how many things do you ever see played that have shadow? Probably none. And frankly, a lot of y'all didn't even pay attention to the fact that Douthie Voidwalker had shadow because you ain't ever swinging with your Douthie Voidwalker. You're just using it to be a jerk and steal people's stuff out the graveyard so they can't reanimate their fun stuff, which I approve this message, by the way. Alpha Authority is defense and evasion. It's still going to be blocked by one critter, but it ain't going to get ganged up on and whooped up on too bad. Aether Tunnel is a buff and evasion. Aqueous Form is card selection and evasion. And Cloak of Mists is the worst of the three, frankly. It just can't be blocked. But you need that. And Brotherhood Regalia is fantastic because it gives it Ward 2 and can't be blocked. And it ain't but one to slap it on Kotis. So Brotherhood Regalia is my favorite out of those effects, although Aether Tunnel's a close second. Now, what's better than one Kotis? Two Kotises. Irenicus's Vile Duplication gives you another Kotis, and it ain't legendary, and it flies. So you got a flying zombie snake dude person. My God, what is that? Oh, sorry. Cat jumped up on the back of the chair, scared the crap out of me. Spark Double gives you another Kotis that's buffed. An Auton Soldier makes more Kotises every combat. I love clones. You see, they can't be mad about this either, because then not only is your deck only as good as their deck, your deck is only as good as your deck being as good as their deck. So how they gonna be mad? I don't understand. Now, then we've got just some general mess around cards that are really way more powerful than they look at first blush. Eutropia, the twice favored, is a boss. Anytime you play an enchantment, and there's 20 something of them in this deck, you're putting a counter on a critter and it gets flying. Then Thief of Sanity just steals their crap and has flying. Doomwake Giant is a board wipe on a stick, especially if you got a cost reducer like Strongback out there. Nylea's Colossus will make Kotis an actual lethal threat, so you ain't even got to steal much of their stuff. Arcane Heist, I love Cypher. I love Cypher. I think it's the best mechanic that they have hardly ever used. So you get to Snapcaster one of their thingamabobbers, and then you Cypher it onto Kotis, and then every time Kotis hits somebody, you get to cast something out of an opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost. Plus, you get to cast stuff off the top of their deck without paying its mana cost. And then you run Felix 5 boots, so you're going to do all that twice. How dope is that? I'm not just going to steal your stuff. I'm going to steal twice as much of your stuff. And you know who really likes stealing stuff? Gonti. You know who else really likes stealing stuff? Gonti. Oh, you know who else really likes stealing stuff? Gonti. Now, you'll note this Gonti is also a ramp spell because whenever somebody casts something they don't own, which is every time you smack somebody with Kotis, you make treasure. And this one is also kind of irrelevant except for the Gontis, because the stuff you cast them with Kotis, you cast them for free. But it's just all on theme. And dude, this art for Gonti, it's a Gonti in a hat. I mean, that's just cool. So that is my Kotis, the Fangkeeper deck, which is one of my very favorite decks right now. And yeah, we got land. I don't know. Is there anything special about the land base? Surveil lands, basic land, surveil land, basic, reflecting pool, ash barrens, command tower, fetches. No, there's nothing. I went over all the lands that we care about that are like relevant. Everything else is just mana. For mana's sake, check the deck list in the description. And hey, y'all, if you made it this far, why don't you leave me a comment to tell me something I could add into this deck to make it even funnier? And tell me if you've played a Kotis the Fangkeeper deck and how it went for you. And give me a like, give me a subscribe, and check out our not sponsor Top Decked, one of the best collection tracking apps you can find. Till next time, bye y'all. Be Kotis, do crimes.